You are now listening to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Let the story begin.
One time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 1 time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin. Hold me down.
Welcome to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. It's your boy Greg Eel, the culture change agent, and you know we pumped up. We rocking and rolling, swag surfing, and all that good stuff today, and I got a show for you. First and foremost, I want to start off with a couple housekeeping things. One, I want to say thank you, everybody, for showing up and showing out last week's podcast. Shout out to Peter Dutton and the whole team of Soul Pop, man. Podcast got great reviews, and thank y'all for those that supported early. And we on the 30-day Thrive Challenge. This is day 4. So shout out to Brian Washington, Jada, Malone, Samuel Lucas, Nunu, Nate, Monica, Renee, Bertrand, Afi, Sarisa, Comfort, Taylor, Kazim, yeah, Mia, Pete, Mike, Dr. Sanders, Miss Suggs, White Taryn. We got 25 people in this thing. They locked and loaded. It was full within the first day, and I'm just so supportive for Minority Trailblazer Nation for stepping up and showing love and support. And I'm telling y'all, we're gonna have this thrive, this challenge just popping. Hopefully everybody gets to reach their goals, and if not, they're gonna learn something new about themselves. They're learning a lot about me already because I just try to keep it 100. And I just thank y'all for y'all overwhelming support. And I'm gonna urge y'all, when November come, when we drop the announcements on a new wave of stuff we're working on, I need that same energy. And there's going to be no cap on this. It's for everybody. For all the Minority Trailblazer Nation, man. I can't wait to launch Trailblazer University. I'm debating between Trailblazer University or Trailblazer Academy. I like the university sound better. Academy sounds kind of for like kids or something like that. But yeah, Trailblazer University is coming. It's coming. It's coming soon. There's going to be your online resource for behind the scene work, consistent motivation, most importantly, consistent resources with people that are changing the game, like behind the scenes on really how to do it. Because the podcast we can only get us so deep within an hour and a half. But we got some stuff that's about to drop, that's about to be real in the field, right? And it's going to be every month, new content. Finance, real estate, relationships, all this stuff. I'm bringing you some exclusive work. I can't wait to get started. So get ready. I will not be long on this. I don't have anything don't have any updates. Nope. Outside of Trailblazer University and shouting out to people that joined the 30-day Thrive Challenge, I have nothing. So I hope your Thursday, I hope your week has been going well. Man, 2018 is flying. Flying. It's crazy. But let's jump into the show. And this show, I'm telling you, is going to be far more technical than the last show. It's not going to be story driven as much. It's going to be just a technical experiment with a guy and his wife not on this call, but a guy and his wife that are doing some really good things in email marketing and just taking business growth and development to the next level. So I'm asking some real key questions about, okay, how do you generate leads? How do you keep momentum going? And about his backstory. So I definitely think y'all will enjoy it. Once again, I thank y'all, Minority Trailblazer. I don't thank y'all enough for the support that y'all give me on every single platform, the confidence, the words of encouragement, the messages, the monetary support, all that good stuff, man. And we still in the lab, yo. So I appreciate all y'all. Y'all have allowed me to travel the world. Like, seriously, this has opened up speaking engagements to schools and places I never would have been able to get into. But y'all open the door, man, so I would never take y'all for granted. Love all y'all and enjoy the episode.
On this show, we interview young, successful minorities in a variety of fields to educate, empower, and inspire our current and future generation of leaders. And as always, I have a show for you today. I'm really, really pumped up, excited about the show because it's layered. And I love layered shows because not only are we going to talk business, but we're going to talk about relationships, not relationship advice. So everybody's already there. Now we're not talking relationship advice, but we're going to be able to take this, interview in the places that I don't feel like we've been over the last couple weeks or last couple months, man. So I'm excited to kind of dig into it. A husband and a wife team and how that dynamic plays out, because I know a lot of us out there that maybe are working with it's just, let me not even jump into it, man. I want to read the bio real quick and then jump right into the show. So he helps e-commerce businesses make more money. He is a co-founder of Stellar Emails, an email marketing management service for online retailers. Through digital courses, in-person workshops, corporate training, and speaking engagements, he helps e-commerce business owners and marketing teams use email to connect with customers and increase revenue. A medical school dropout, he turned an internship at an online fashion startup into a digital consulting agency. From content strategy and social media management to online ads and product development, he shifted gears to the one marketing channel that generated the most consistent revenue: email marketing. So he launched Stellar Emails to give businesses at every level the ability to use email to generate more sales each and every month. And all my own business owners out there, just all my people out there in general, you know how important it is to keep themselves consistent, to keep them coming, and most importantly, keep them growing. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Thierry Augustin to the Minority Trailblazer podcast, man. Welcome to the show.
Greg, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate you being here and being able to come in and share some things with your audience.
Hey, no doubt, man. No doubt. I appreciate you challenging me this afternoon with the name, man. I was like trying to finesse it, and beforehand I was like, should I even ask him? I was like, I have to ask because I don't know how I was going to pronounce that name. Matter of fact, what age were you that you asked your parents, like, where'd you get this name from? Like, why did your parents name you this? I mean, not in a negative way. I'm just saying, like, and your teachers growing up have a hard time pronouncing it?
Oh, absolutely. Especially since my name is toward the top of the roll call. So you'd see the teacher, they'd start to furrow their brow a little bit, and then they just go ahead and throw out a Thierry. And I'm just like, no, so close. So I actually spent the majority of my life having people call me Terry instead, because I just didn't want to deal with it. But it wasn't until I met my wife when she was just like, "What's your real name?" And ever since then, I had to kind of shift back to what it's supposed to sound like.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. So as we always do, we try to start the show off with some positive momentum or just momentum in general. Keep the energy where it needs to go, and kind of it helps me shape the podcast and why I want to lead it. So with that being said, can you share with us a quote or a mantra that you live by and a story about how you apply that quote or mantra to your everyday life?
Oh, absolutely. So the quote is actually something I picked up from Dr. Creflo Dollar when I was listening to him online. And it says, whatever you focus on, you strengthen. So for me, that's a daily reminder of why I chose to niche down in the first place instead of, being good at a lot of things. I want it to be great at one thing, and all it does is just require, your continuous focus and attention, and you can, continue to grow by leaps and bounds. That's an encouragement to everybody who's listening.
I love that. And we're going to talk specifically about how you niche down into email marketing, because that email marketing, e-commerce specifically, which is a very niche in itself. And I can't wait to break that down and explain it. But before we even get into your businesses that you have been able to start, your background and everything else, not your background, but everything else, I wanted to ask you, and this is our first part, because we're going to break this show into like 4 parts. The first part is kind of your background, your past. The second part focuses on your businesses, and we're going to ask a lot of questions into that. And the third part, I also want to talk to you about your working relationship with your wife, because I know there may be a lot of people online that may be thinking about partnerships with their significant other, and how you can kind of create boundaries and how you can have openness and honest communication while still making sure that the business goes, the business flows. And I got a lot of stuff I want to ask on that. And then the last and one of the shortest things is just the future and kind of seeing where it goes, man. So let's take it back to the jump, man. Can you share with our audiences a little bit about your background and who you are?
Oh, absolutely. So, my journey into this kind of e-commerce space actually started when I was in medical school. So I had ended up taking a year off, just so that I can explore some different things, clear my head a little bit. I ended up working in an HIV/AIDS clinic, doing some traveling, and then probably doing some odd jobs just to keep some money in my pocket. But when it came time to actually resume my coursework, I was not into it. I knew that there was something more for me, that this wasn't the exact path that was going to be the most fulfilling for me. And right around that time, a good friend of mine had asked me to jump in with him on a project, and he was starting a men's fashion blog. So this was kind of around 2012 or so, and the space was really kind of opening up for men. I think previously, women bloggers were kind of, the only ones on the scene. And I kind of got in at a really good time where we were able to grow pretty quickly, network really well, and have, a lot of great connections with major outlets like, GQ and Men's Health and Details when that was around, and then kind of leverage that until I got a position at an independent men's magazine that turned into an internship at early stage online fashion startup. And that's kind of where I really cut my teeth in, online retail. And, at that point, I think they were doing about, 5 million a year. Mm-hmm. When I left, they probably were doing double that. But man, I got to wear so many hats. I got so much exposure. And, starting as an intern, I remember starting off, I was just like, printing shipping labels and like steaming clothes. And then I was able to, wiggle my way into some, more executive meetings and kind of get a sense of how real decisions are made over companies that are making more money than I ever even thought about, before having that experience. So I really got to cut my teeth there and kind of see the power of content online, and how people, when they consume that, you can use that as a conversion tool, but then also figuring out how to even share that content consistently. And I saw that they were using email really well. So of course I had to, get some experience into that and kind of dig into it. And as I started to grow in the business and just grow my network in general in that new industry, I was speaking with a lot of business owners, and I realized that they were either not doing any email marketing at all, and if they were, they were doing it pretty poorly. So that had already given me a sense of, okay, this is a gap in the market. This is something that I can, do well in and kind of use as leverage. And so I took some online courses, and I had just kind of started a side hustle consultancy while I was working my 9 to 5, and I started doing that for some of my clients and getting some really good results. So that kind of laid the foundation for where I am now.
Man, that's a lot in that story. But I want to go back to the beginning when you say you decided to leave medical school. Was that at the time a huge decision for yourself? Like, what played into that? And then how, when you transitioned to that and then you went to interning, because I know that's a big thing. I'm going to med school, I want to become a doctor. And now you're working in a whole different industry. I'm talking about fashion, and then the retail space, and the internship. Did you have any blowback from your family, from your friends, or what was going through your mind when you made that decision?
I think, to my fortune, my mother was, really kind of accepting. She had always raised me to be able to make my own decisions and sit with it, and not necessarily let anyone sway me out of it if I'm completely convinced that I should be doing something differently. I was that milestone kid for my family, first college graduate, going into kind of like high level post grad and all that. So there was a lot kind of riding on decision, to say the least. But now I'm doing all right. So no complaints really. I think it was just something that for most people, you think about, how can I make, other people happy? And then you kind of sacrifice yourself a little bit. I think, at an early age, I understood that, if I'm not happy, that I can't necessarily help anyone else. So that was kind of more of the bigger decision. And, it was just about kind of taking the leap and kind of seeing where things, fleshed out. And it worked out in my favor for sure.
Got you. And last question before we kind of transition into kind of what you do in the current day. I wanted to ask, are you from New York?
So that's my fun fact. I'm probably the most New Yorker ever. I've actually lived in all 5 boroughs.
All
New York.
5?
All 5.
Is that
Even
possible?
Staten Island. I ended up going to high school in Staten
Did you do some
Island.
time or something like that? Like,
I mean, I just moved around. So I have ties pretty much to everywhere. So that's my New York fun fact. I've
Wow.
been able to literally experience every single borough.
Which one's your favorite?
I'm a Brooklynite now,
Okay.
and I love Brooklyn. So it's the perfect kind of like town/city feel. So you get a little bit of both here. So I'm happy about that. But originally I was born in Haiti. I moved here when I was really, really young, and then just got to experience the whole of the city. So I could say that I'm a New York native for sure.
Man, that's dope. Do you ever get a chance to go back to Haiti and visit family, or not like that?
No, I think the 2 opportunities I had were when I was pretty significantly young, and it was unfortunately for a funeral. And then the next opportunity I had, I was actually in medical school and couldn't necessarily get away to go help out with the earthquakes there. So it's on my list of things to go back to and things to experience. And I've already had a few friends that jumped onto some cruises and got to see some of the more countryside of Haiti. So I've seen the selfies from that. I definitely have to go and make a trip back.
I got you, man. So as we transition to the business part of things, and I know just looking through your bio and just hearing you talk right now, when you were actually working and you were online, cutting your teeth in the online space, retail space, I know you had your hustle. You were doing your thing outside your 9 to 5. What was the exit trigger that happened for you to make the leap into entrepreneurship?
For me, I thought, there was a ceiling on my earning potential, right? I had taken that position knowing that I wanted to grow into it. But as I started doing my side hustle thing, I had slowly kind of exited into trying to do some more remote work and seeing if that was a possibility, and it was. And I had done a couple of really good projects that were super profitable, and then I personally just kind of felt like, man, I don't know if I can't renegotiate this, right? This is this is pretty much where it is. And and do I have the motivation to sit around and wait and see if something's going to open up later if I just give them more of my time, more of my ideas, more of my energy? Or do I go out and kind of create something for myself? And that became a pretty easy decision. And for me, there's a certain level of kind of like comfort, and that every 2 weeks you're getting your check or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think for people who if you are okay with being uncomfortable for a little bit, then you can kind of do something that will put you in a position to never have to wait on a check again.
I like that. So also a question I wanted to ask is, how do you structure your days, and how has it changed since you started? Because I know one thing that I didn't necessarily think about when I think about business and doing business for yourself, I thought about, okay, I get to create my own schedule. I get to do this. I get to do that. And it might be, my money might be tight for a little while, but if I get this contract, X, Y, and Z, all these went through my head. But then the day after I left my job, and this is way, way back when my first job, when I left, I was like, yo, how am I structuring my days? I was just blind to it. I was kind of new to it. And then it took me a while to get a rhythm. And honestly, even to this day, it's still difficult at times to structure days. So when you first started, I guess your first day after leaving your 9 to 5, like, how did you structure your days, and has it changed since you started?
Absolutely, yeah. Free time is dangerous, right? and I think that's the kind of misconception when you are working for yourself. You feel like initially, oh, I have free time, like I can pretty much do whatever I want, and that's kind of like the first step on the road to failure, right? You want to make sure that you take the same kind of like structure that you had from a 9 to 5 and you apply that. So for me now, I'm waking up earlier. I have a son now, so I have other responsibilities that I have to balance throughout the day. But, for the most part, I try to see if I can end, my work day after I do my chunks of work, probably by like 7 p.m. That way I can have some time to spend with my family and then hang out with the wife and be able to do our date nights and all that stuff. So I think it's, personally, like if I were, single, I'm sure I'd have, different responsibilities too. So I think one, you got to think about what's the lifestyle you want to live, when do you operate your best? Some people are night owls and they can crank out their best work, between like 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. So if that's your best time to work, go ahead and structure your day around that. Especially if you don't have to, communicate with people regularly throughout the day, you can feel free to, just optimize your personal schedule. So I think those are all the kind of factors that go in. It's like, what are my needs throughout the day? Like, who do I have to be in touch with? And then when do I do my best work? And how do I kind of build around those things? And then once you have that, it gets a little easier. It's still not perfect. Some days, some days I roll out of bed and I'm like, man, I'm about to roll right back. But, we can't, you know what I mean? I think, you just kind of can't stop grinding it out because there's certain things that do depend on you. Even as I've begun to, delegate a lot more, there's still things that, are unique to me and how I see the world and how I see businesses. So I have to make sure that I'm on point whenever I'm needed.
Got you, man. And what would you say was your first, or let's take a step back. Why, when you left, and I know you said you wanted to focus on email marketing, why email marketing specifically? And how, and are you a believer or in the belief space of purpose driven job? Like, because sometimes you think of email marketing or anything when your job is primarily like looking at online and developing concepts, emails, et cetera. How do you tie specific purpose into that?
So for me, like, I guess the bigger why behind Stellar Emails is that, I personally want to see people in business for the long term. And what happens is, people get stuck in this kind of rat race of always chasing their new customer, right? So they're always trying to acquire. But the real success and the lifeblood of good business is repeat customers. You want the people that are coming back to purchase from you 3, 4, 5 times every year, as opposed to that person who just purchases once and then kind of forgets about you. So for me, it was about what's going to have, or put people in the position to build legacy businesses, not just something that's like, hey, we've been around for 5 years, but, we ran out of funding and we got to shut down. What's that thing that, you could potentially pass on to your kid that somebody else could come in and take it over and continue, these traditions. And we look at, kind of like the, the old houses and the luxury markets, the Hermes and the Louis Vuitton and all these, brands that have been around for so long. And you got to think, what's going to put me into that 100-year brand kind of stratosphere, and this is something for me, especially with all the new developments online and how we can look at data. And email just seems to be, hey, it's the cheapest thing to maintain. People actually want to hear from you. They care about what your brand is doing if they've, ever purchased or heard about your brand. And then all you have to do is keep the conversation going. Right. And I think for me, if you want to keep your business going, you have to constantly be in conversation with your customers.
What would you say is like the biggest mistakes that you see currently from businesses, specifically in the online space?
I think, part of it is just kind of relying on one channel too much. Right. So you see people who are like, well, we've built our business on Instagram or on Facebook. And then you have to realize that, you don't own that platform. So when the algorithm changes, or the way that you show up on a feed changes, or you have to go and struggle to get the same amount of engagement on a post that was doing so well last week, and then it's a new week and everything is so different, you got to realize that you're always going to be behind the eight ball, because these are companies that are for-profit companies that are finding new ways to make themselves more money. So the tactics that you thought were going to work, or that have worked in the past, are always going to be changing, because these companies are looking for more and better ways to monetize for themselves. So your ads get more expensive. You have to do all these different things to adjust to the kind of new, kind of economy that they want to provide for their user base. So being a business that's kind of like attached to a platform, so distinctly, it really puts you at a disadvantage.
Nah, yeah, you're right on the money with that. And as far as like just diversifying different streams or diversifying different things, right now, currently, outside of selling emails, are you a big proponent or a person of, okay, let me have multiple streams as an entrepreneur, or do you just put all majority of focus on stellar emails?
Oh no, I'm definitely a multiple streams kind of guy. I think that's something that you need just to survive, right? I think things are constantly changing in the retail space, and you have to be kind of aware of all the places that you can add value. So if there are obviously more than one place where you add value, where you have a certain level of experience or expertise, you definitely are doing yourself a disservice if you don't find a way to monetize it, right? So for me, continuing to consult businesses, it's not the most active thing that I push and that I put my kind of marketing dollars and time and energy into, but these are still things that are viable, that are available, and all I've done is make that kind of direct access to me more of a high ticket offering. So it already kind of disqualifies some people just by basis of, hey, they probably can't afford it and they're not ready to do the things that I'm going to, require of them. And it's perfect for me because I feel that I'm getting properly compensated for the amount of time and energy that I'm going to put into somebody else's business.
Yeah, nah, you hit that too. But another big question I have is pertaining to e-commerce, because a lot of times when I think about e-commerce and when I hear it and I see other people online, they help out with e-commerce, and e-commerce just sounds so like just left field for a lot of people. I mean, that are maybe not in that space. So could you kind of break down specifically kind of when you say e-commerce, kind of what does it mean? And also too, say for instance, for those that are not privy, to it, would you suggest, or would you think that's a market that other people like new entrepreneurs would go into, or is it not necessarily easy, but is a market that you think people could be successful in?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll start with the second question first. And, one of the biggest draws for e-commerce in general, selling products online, right, as your primary sales channel, having an online, website as your primary sales channel. The biggest thing is that there's a little bit of overhead, right? And like, this is not something where you have to go and find real estate and build something out and, create a store. This is something that, can cost you, I don't know, sometimes as cheaply as like $1,000 to start, to be honest, right? Some people are finding so many different ways to do it. So there are people who, obviously spend time and energy and money creating their own products and getting things licensed and getting things tested and doing all that stuff. And you'll see that, in the hair care and the health and beauty industry. There are people, that are in the apparel industry that spend time, designing their own thing and making this thing up. But then there are also people who are in the apparel industry and they do something called drop shipping, where you have these companies that have items, already made in stock. Or you have, kind of print on demand options where you have a company that, sells you a basic t-shirt. You can have a design created and upload it onto the shirt, and they'll print it and send it to your customer on your behalf. So there's so many ways that you can keep your overhead really, really low and still be able to build a brand that's really successful. And we've seen different examples along the whole spectrum. There are people who have, 200 people working under them, and there are small teams of 3 or 4 people that are still making really, really good money online. So I think that's what makes it really attractive. You don't have to come in with a whole lot of money in order to be successful. But, for the most part, though, it still requires the same thing that any store would, right? You still have to have great customer service. You still have to have a great product. You still have to have a monthly marketing budget to make sure that you're getting in front of people who would care about your products. So some of those things are still the same as far as, physical retail and online. But, I think the biggest difference is the less overhead that makes it super attractive.
And how do you stay sharp in business? Because I know, like I said, especially in the online space where things are always rapidly changing. And like one day algorithm could change, one day, an email provider could change, or the way open rate is, a lot of stuff is consistently changing. So how do you stay abreast of the new changes, and how do you make sure that when you're consulting and when you're working with people that you have the most up-to-date knowledge from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's partly your personal community. Do you have other entrepreneurs around you who are, in the same space, doing the same thing, dealing with the same problems? And definitely, using online as a resource. There are people who literally have created their businesses on providing content for entrepreneurs, right? For different ways to learn what's happening, what's new. You have sites like, Retail Dive, and you have, your Entrepreneur Magazine and your, Fast Companies and all that stuff. You have all these different, pretty much content sites where they're just aggregating, the latest, the latest news. So you just have to be personally responsible to make sure that you're consuming the right stuff so that you can give the right advice.
That's right there. And if you had to say so far in your entrepreneurship journey, could you describe kind of like your best moments or your best moment, and then maybe your worst moment as well?
Oh man, I think the worst moment, or probably like the toughest moment for me, was actually niching down, right? Because there's this personal kind of ego thing where you're like, you know what? I'm good at a lot of things, but am I great at it? And you have to sit there and really, judge yourself and say, like, what do I do best, right? Because people don't want what you're good at. They want what you're best at, right? That's where you're going to make the most impact personally. And of course, that's where you're going to make the most money. So I think for me, it was just kind of admitting that, oh man, I'm not the ace that I thought I was at all these different things, and just kind of just being honest, right? And I think that's a point that I think everyone eventually has to get to realize, hey, like, I'm only gonna be able to capitalize and do the best with the thing that I consistently work at. So for me, it was great to know that people could rely on me for all these different types of advice in all these different fields, but the person who's really gonna get the most out of me is the person who says, yeah, Thierry, I want you to do, you and your team to do our email marketing. And the best moment, I think, was maybe a month or so back. We had a client that came to us. I think I'd done a cold email to kind of get them into our kind of pipeline, and we were able to close them. And I think within 2 months, we did for them the best they've ever done in less than a month of email marketing. We ended up adding an extra 154,000 to their overall revenue without them having to do any work. And that was just kind of like the proof of concept where they're like, oh yeah, like
I know you
okay,
like, dang, I just got a couple something off. I'm like, yo, can I get a percentage there? That's great, man. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. I think for me, that was like a really proud moment to say, like, this is why it works, right? You don't have to even press a button. You kind of just pass the ball to us and we go ahead and we finish it.
So with that being said, what have you learned over the last couple years in this business journey as far as prospecting? Because I know a lot of businesses, when they first start off, or not even, this is not just for my entrepreneur, this is for anybody that can anybody, even outside of business, when you first start something and you're excited about it, you may already have, one of the goals accomplished. You may already have a couple contracts in the pipeline, but then those pipelines dry up. or that goal that you are accomplished. You already reached your fitness level. And now it's like, okay, am I just going to a trophy, or I'm going to keep growing and keep getting better? So how do you deal with the prospecting? Is it just a relationship focus, or how do you deal as far as with your company, as far as prospecting?
Yeah, so I think for us, it's always, is there a need there? Is there a way that you can add value, right? Because there's no reason to necessarily reach out to someone who is already doing something well, that you have no issue with them, right? So we're able to kind of scrub, from on the back end side, we're able to kind of scrub through companies and see are they doing email marketing? Are they doing it consistently? How's their design? What's their, what's their look and feel like? How can you kind of get a peek at what they're already doing and see if you can come in and say, we can make this 10 times better and make you way more money, right? So I think that's the first thing. And, the second thing is really knowing who that customer is. There's a particular customer profile for us that really works, and it's usually the business with a small but kind of really focused team. But what usually happens in all businesses is that when you are a small team, but you're really dedicated, something just kind of, you kind of drop the ball on some things, and email marketing usually ends up being one of those things where it's just like another task, and you should be doing it, but man, we're so busy trying to make sure that the product is right and the packaging is right and that our customers are happy, that we kind of, leave this on the back end and figure out, hey, we'll just put it on the to-do list and get back to it. So having had direct experience with small teams, I knew that was an issue for them. So it wasn't hard for me to kind of conceptualize and say like, yeah, this will work for other people. So I think that was like the main thing. Hey, do you know who you're actually selling to? What are their pain points? Like, why would they, immediately say yes to your service? Not someone who's gonna, mull it over and think about it and see, and see if they need it, but you got that person who's what we call kind of like a warm lead, like someone who's like, yeah, I'm already feeling the crunch, right? I wish I could make more more money with email. I wish I could get more repeat customers, but I'm just so busy doing all these other things that things are kind of slipping. So if you would take it over, man, I'd be so happy. So that's the kind of mode that we're in, and working with our kind of copywriting team. And if you go on the Stellar Emails website, it's geared toward that one person. It's geared to that, that business owner that's trying to manage a small team, or that's wearing so many hats and trying to make things work. And they understand that, hey, if I did this one thing well and consistently, then I could finally have some breathing room. And once we kind of, got into the head of our customer a little bit, we're able to kind of develop our features and our service, based around them.
I like that. So instead of, so not taking the prospect approach of, I'm just going to just cold call and email as many people as possible and see if they're interested. No, that is a part of it, but that's not a full strategy. Just kind of really seeing, okay, because it takes time to really identify what the pain points are, and then who is exhibiting those pain points, and then who to contact that can really make plays on exhibiting those pain. It's just a lot involved in it. So that brings me to a question about, did you have any mentors or people in the game outside of just taking online courses and maybe attending conferences? Did you have people that allowed you or that enabled you to fine tune kind of what your skill set was and what your genius level ability was in?
So definitely conferences were super helpful. I attended a conference called Shop Talk, which was, for me, it gave me even a bigger glimpse as to what larger companies deal with. So it wasn't even something that I was like, oh, like this is like a conference for me. I was like, you're going to just throw yourself into like the deep end of the pool and see like what people are actually dealing with. So it showed me how all the different growth strategies and all these things that, these people have to juggle, and why, companies get big, right? What are the kind of secrets to why companies get big? And email marketing happened just to be one of those things. And for me, I was pretty fortunate to have clients early on that were just like, I mean, if you think this would help, go ahead and do it. And so I was able to experiment. I think that was like the biggest thing for me because, the courses kind of give you the concepts and the foundational knowledge. But if you don't have anywhere to apply it, then you're just kind of stuck with, these things rolling around in your head and no way to kind of get them out into the real world. So I think I was most thankful for my clients that, continued to let me wear all the hats that I needed to. And then that allowed me to really figure out what I was best at.
That's great, man. And to switch gears a little bit, when we had our initial phone call, I know you mentioned that you were married, but also too that your wife was your business partner, like y'all work together on things. And and I just wanted you to kind of delve into that about, one, first of all, how did y'all meet? And then two, being that y'all worked, what made y'all say, okay, we're going to do this business together?
Oh man. So I think I'll start with the second one because the key, honestly, to working with your partner is understanding, your strengths and weaknesses. So her background, she had a background in PR and kind of fashion merchandising. And she pretty much, I met her right during that med school break. And she was able to, before, us becoming kind of romantic, she was able to just kind of help me figure out things in my head, right? Like, how do these things work? And literally, I remember her giving me her old textbooks from college because this is the stuff that she majored in. And I was just kind of breaking onto the scene and trying to see what worked, So immediately, we had this kind of exchange in our relationship where like, hey, if there's something that you need help with, like, I'm available. And she was likewise. So I think that's the balance that we've always operated on. So now as we've continued to grow as people individually and as business owners individually, we still kind of come in to our relationship with the same thing of like, hey, like, take this off your plate. I'll do this for you. You'll do this thing for me because I don't want to stress and you don't want to stress. So we save each other the headache. So I think that's pretty much like our golden rule is like, if something is giving you trouble and I'm good at it, then I'll do it for you. And then if something is giving us both trouble, then we find somebody else and pay them to do it. And that way we keep the kind of stress levels low in the house.
Hey, now I can see how that can be an issue. And I always think I've had trouble in the past working with, sometimes it is difficult to work with somebody from the opposite sex. If you're an entrepreneur, it just around the same age. Sometimes it can be difficult to think. And I think a lot of times it boils down to just communication. So, being a married man and actually having your wife as a business partner, is there any tools or tips you can give to our audience as far as just communication in general? And I don't know if you could take the emotion out of it, because I can see if y'all working on a project, something goes wrong. And when you don't live with somebody, you can just leave the house, or you come back the next day 9 to 5, but it's cool. But then it's like, hold up, this is the same person that's making your dinner. This is the same person that's the mother of your child. Like, it's a lot entwined. And you know that, okay, say if you want to, here's a good example. Say if you wanted to give a suggestion or to something, or maybe something wasn't done that you thought should be done, and you want to give feedback, but they're like, hold up. Some people don't take that. Some people take the feedback and then it's done. But like I said, this is the same person that when the clock strikes 7, like you said, when you get off, it's still there. And that's still foundation is still there. So how do y'all kind of separate things?
For me, I just, I don't think you can. I think you don't allow kind of like the negative stuff to bleed through, right? So I think, our best tactic is to make sure that we get it right before we shut down. So it's not something where you can say like, oh, well, this didn't work out, so like we're just going to wait till the next day, because it's inevitable that it's going to kind of bleed into the rest of your interactions. We're just like, what's the solution? Like the solution is the only thing that matters, because our goals are the same, right? So I think that's it. Like, for me, it was about, hey, things don't have to always happen the way I say they should. That was like the biggest adjustment, because it's like, Thierry, you're actually not, the smartest person in the room, right? Like it's like there's this kind of like push and pull there, where it's just like, oh, like I had this plan, I think it should go this way, but then it's like, you can't be a great leader if you're not constantly kind of being open to feedback. So I think that's been, the best adjustment, both as her husband and as a business partner, is being able to say like, this is your realm. Like, you're great at this, so tell me what to do, right? Tell me what we should do and how we should kind of go about it. And it usually works out pretty well when we allow each other to be great in our zones of genius individually. So I think that's how we limit the potential for like butting heads and things like that. And I think honest feedback is the only feedback. There's no kind of sugarcoating when something is being done wrong, because if you sugarcoat it, then you turn it into a bigger issue down the line, as opposed to saying like, we're just going to fix it right here, right now, so that we continue to go in the right direction, as opposed to having to turn around when you're down the road like 8 blocks. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, hey, how do we approach this thing? How do we look for an immediate solution to what's going on? If something's going well, continue to do it, and just continue to sit down and review things, every week or so. Say, hey, is this working? Why is it not working? Are you not doing enough? Should you be doing more? Can we hire somebody to do this? And then just keep it moving. 'Cause I think, again, the goals are the same. That's the biggest thing, because we've been working together since we've been dating. So
wow,
that's something that kind of pushed us to immediately say like, hey, like, yeah, we're going to be able to communicate about these things and give each other feedback and say like, okay, we're going to be able to divide our labor and do all these other things like that. And now it's been fantastic, because now that we do have a son, we still have our roles to play, and we're so clear on our roles that we don't necessarily have to, add that in as another wrench in the cogs.
Man, that is amazing and phenomenal in itself, man. And I do, when you were talking, it did come to mind that, one, have you ever been in a situation, and maybe not in this business partnership, but it was the opposite, where say the communication and lines you didn't have and I like that philosophy. Is like, let's settle it today. And I think that can become just for people, not even just people that are in relationships or going business with partner or business with friends, just in general. Let's try to find a solution today, and not saying, okay, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. And then, because that's what happens is sometimes you don't talk about it tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. And when it does come, it becomes like a big showdown. 'Cause I'm like, I remember 2 weeks ago you did this, and 3 weeks ago you did this. Do you have any experience, or can you speak to it? If you can't, it's fine, but can you speak to say something that has been going on, or the communication lines haven't been open, and now you're trying to open them back up? Because I know some people may be in relationships or are doing business with friends or other partners, and it's like they never created that same, they have the same goal, but they never had that same open and honest line of feedback or how they're going to communicate. And now they're kind of upstream, and then everybody's at disarray. So what would your advice be to that person?
Yeah, I mean, I think that happened, early on for me with my clients, actually, that there was no kind of, standard operating procedure. There was no, you can't call me at 10 p.m. You know what I mean? And I think so part of it is, starting off and kind of having your boundaries and your roles outlined early as clearly as you can, right? So I think that's the thing too. A lot of people get stuck when they're in business, and it's like so rigid, right? Like, I do this and no one else can, give me any feedback on it or whatever like that. I'm just, this is my thing. But I think if you're not open to adjusting, then you're really not open to growing. So for me, my best advice is to, articulate roles and responsibilities early on, expectations early on between each other, and then just stick to them. Right. I think what usually happens is like someone who, let's say, is offended, and let's say, as your business, kind of your manifesto said, hey, if you're offended, address it immediately so we can clear it out. But somebody's offended and say, you know what, I'm just going to let it slide this time. And they don't necessarily let it slide, right? It's like still there. So I think like if you are going to sit there and have a partnership or have a group of people that you work with and have the same goals, there should be a manifesto that is not only articulated, but that you each, individually stick to and even hold each other accountable to, right? So if you don't have a weekly meeting that says, hey, did I offend you today, or did I step on your toes this week, or, did we clash this week, and is there a better way that we can kind of get around it? It just shows that you're not trying to find solutions actively. You're okay with kind of going with the flow, and going with the flow is very dangerous when the flow is not good, right? It's great when the flow is great, but it's horrible when the flow is not good. So it's just like, you got to say, hey, this is how we do things. This is our standard operating procedure, and we don't budge from it. We address things immediately. We talk about stuff. We bring other people in for advice. We, pay for conferences and training because we individually want to get better. These are all things that kind of come into the conversation.
Now, you dropping some gems on somebody. I hope they're really listening and taking notes, because usually people listen on podcasts, they hear my voice about 50% of the time, and I'm just listening, taking all this stuff in. This is some great stuff. It can save people a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, not just in business, but even in relationships, as far as just having that open lines of communication and setting those standards, man. So that speaks for itself. And I just thank you for blessing us with that piece and that nugget. We can kind of walk home from here, man. But, so as we kind of transition a bit, as we get closer to the end, when you think about future, right? When you think about your future of the business and how things progress and whatnot, what are your thoughts, and how do you kind of deal with, there is an inherent uncertainty with entrepreneurship, right? Where this next 5 years, so say next 5 years, business booms. And there's a side note, there's an uncertainty with corporate America as well. You can get fired any day. That's neither here nor there. But there is a certainty. It's like, man, this is my life. This is everything. And one bad decision or one contract that goes south, or who knows what can happen. Stuff can dry up. So how do you deal with that uncertainty? Is there a specific place you go? Is it religion? Is it your relationships with people? Like, how do you deal with, the uncertainty of business?
Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of starts with like this certainty of self, right? And we kind of go into this mode of like, this is gonna be the outcome, like no matter what, right? Like it's kind of like my success is inevitable, and the stream for me doesn't necessarily matter. Like right now, it's stellar emails, and this is kind of where my skill set goes to and all that stuff. But I could learn something, tomorrow, or hire somebody tomorrow that is gonna, or hire a coach tomorrow that's going to completely shift how I look at things, and I can jump into another business. So it's not necessarily about this one static business that's my end all be all. For me, it's kind of like the outcome of the lifestyle and that I want to live, and the legacy that I want to leave. So I think if you do get kind of bogged down and thinking, hey, maybe this isn't going to work, or maybe, it has like a shelf life to it and it'll eventually end, then I think that you will, right? It's one of those things of like, whether you think you will or you think you won't, like you're right? I think, it definitely starts, at the mindset level. For me, I'm a Christian, so I've been more and more kind of exposed to, I guess, the promises of God in the Bible, and where, your faith is the tool that you kind of appropriate everything. So all of that stuff is really kind of like bound up in how you think about things, right? So if you're exposing yourself to, positivity, and you're seeing, other people's businesses grow, and you're thinking about your business growing and all that stuff, like you'll see your reality kind of bend to that. vice versa. If everyone around you in your circle is saying, man, entrepreneurship is scary, man, I don't know, how long do you think this can go? Then you're going to start thinking, man, maybe I should get out of this now before something turns out. So, it's kind of, it's really kind of like a consequence of the mind, right? So I think that's the first thing. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you settle in your mind that I'm going to be an entrepreneur, or necessarily I am an entrepreneur, and I'm just, evolving through, whether I'm, still in my 9 to 5 or whatever. I'm evolving, I'm becoming that, right? I'm still kind of consistently becoming that. And every lesson I learn or situation I go through is, leading me toward that path. And just, kind of sticking it out, right? Like, this wasn't, a business idea that I had 5 years ago. So in the next 5 years, I'm excited, honestly, to see what will develop based off all the experiences that I've had and things like that, right? I could, in 5 years or 10 years, I could be in like the nonprofit space. Like, who knows, right? Who knows? But the thing about it is, like, you've been kind of given tools and natural talents, and, it's our job to figure out, hey, how do we best apply these to, help change the world and be happy while we do it. So I think that's the awesome thing. And literally, especially in 2018 with the internet, our potential is more tangibly limitless than probably ever before, where you can literally, you can learn something in a day if you wanted to, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's totally different than having to, go to a ancient library by candlelight, right? Like, there's a lot of opportunity, right? And I think that that's how everyone should start their day, knowing that there are opportunities out there, that people are actively looking for what you want to give them and how you want to benefit them, and eventually those points are going to intersect.
Yeah, I like that. Just starting the day off with the opportunity, and I guess that's really goes into your environment as well, making sure you're pumping in the right stuff. Because if you start the day off with a negative mindset, like, negative things tend to jump out and come attack you and come chill with you. So I respect that to the 100, man. And also too, man, I think you touched on it a little bit. But when it's all said and done, not to be too morbid, like, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh man. So I think, even when I was in med school, there was this whole thing about, you help people, right? There's this general sense of, like, I'm here to help people. And I think that's the one thing that hasn't changed. For me now, it's like my legacy is, currently, having helped people build legacy businesses, right? Things that are strong, that are viable, that aren't kind of like shutting down with every new issue. And I think that's my most important thing. It's how do I help other people? My legacy is helping other people, build their own. So, thus far, I'm really happy with that. I think that's a powerful thing. And, I've been, really fortunate to also work with people of color and help them build their businesses too. So I think that also kind of falls in line with where I see myself at the end of my life.
Love that, man. Love that. So we're going to switch gears and go to our rapid fire round, man. I asked a series of 5 rapid fire questions. You can give me rapid fire answers, or take your time if you want, man. You ready to go?
Yeah, ready to go.
What's the best piece of advice that you have never received?
Oh man, that's a great question. The best piece of advice I've never received, and I didn't receive it directly. I ended up hearing it from somebody else, is start even if you're not ready. And it's probably, I think, like, the scariest prospect, when you're just like, oh man, like, but I have to have this and this and this in order. But again, it kind of speaks to the mindset. Is like, well, I'm out here, I'm going to literally be putting everything that I have into something, and something's going to shake out. So I think that's a super powerful thing. I didn't get it when I needed it, but I heard it way later, and I'm just like, that is right. So that's the one. Start when you're not ready.
And I got the second question, but I want to ask something in particular on that. When you start something before you're actually ready, and say if it doesn't go out right, are you the type of person that holds on to past mistakes and kind of is in the back of your head, or do you kind of just let it go immediately, or have you developed into the person and let it go immediately?
I think I've developed into the person that looks for the lessons. And so I think for me, it's like, it's weird, like when you kind of say like it doesn't work out, right? Because there's something there, right? So there's something there, whether it's like, oh, the planning could have been tighter, or I could have brought in, another skilled person with me and something like that. There's always something that you kind of can take away from the situation and flip it so that you can almost literally, start right back up immediately, get right back on the horse, because there was something there, before that you didn't know, and now there's this new thing that you can apply and to find your own kind of like special formula. So I think just kind of developing into someone who's constantly saying like, oh, like, what did I learn or what did I glean from this? Even if it's like a minuscule little nugget. I've been on, when I was like trying to like really kind of get all my knowledge together and my expertise, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to take these courses and jump on these webinars and do whatever that everyone's offering. And you'll be on that thing for an hour and be like, I didn't get nothing new. But then you stick it out, you can get this last little thing that you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to flip that. Or I can see how that applies to my business. They may be talking about it in this, one industry, but I can see I can flip this and apply it to, the people that I'm serving too. So I think, looking for those nuggets, kind of like having your eyes open to see what's really available, instead of just kind of like shutting it down and being like, oh man, I didn't get anything from this at all. So I think that's a special discipline that you have to develop.
Love it, man. Now I got the title for the show. Look for the lessons. I mean, I think that's huge. That's simple. That's profound. Anything. If you could do that immediately, not like a year from now. Cause everybody, when they on it, like 2 years, they feel like 2 years from now, like I should have, or worse, unfortunately, even at funerals, they're like, well, or at the end, or when they're past their prime, when that window's all, a lot of opportunities have closed, now all of a sudden it's like, man, I should have did this. Nah, go ahead and try to look for the lessons immediately so you can apply them. So I love that, man. So the question, back to the rapid fire round. If you could add one habit and take away one habit, what would they be?
Add one habit. I think I would probably consistently exercise. I'm always in awe of people who are like, on a day that I'm not there, I'm just like, I'm walking by the gym, I'm walking by the park, and I'm like, man, you out here? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, I'm always in awe, because there's, a certain level of like that physical discipline that's like, well, the rain's not going to stop me, the snow's not going to stop me, or whatever like that. I'm like, man, it's wet outside. I'm not going to go. So that's one part of it. That I would add. What I would take away, probably, my indulgences in some junk food. I'm a big cake guy. So
oh man, I am a huge cake guy. What's your favorite kind?
So I'm everything lemon, man. So I love it as a kind of palate cleanser. And then when you make it right, like it just, man. So I get my moments where I'm just like, man, I think I'm gonna treat myself, but I was like, it doesn't end up being necessary. And it's just like, it's just kind of gluttonous. So I think that's probably one thing I would take away. But yeah, that'll be it.
I think I could say that's one of the worst things that I've seen in business for myself, is that anytime I get a contract or anytime I get a gig or anything else, for some reason I'm like, my mind tells me I deserve to go. I deserve like anything that I want. I can go, oh, let me get some ribs tonight, or let me go ahead and kill, like, I'm talking about a couple pies. That's cool because I just got this gig. Yeah, but it's like, hold up, man. Like, once you consistently start getting stuff, then it's like, man, I can't be doing this every single time. Like,
yeah, it's not healthy after a while.
Not at all.
Yeah, fun for a short time, but definitely something I'm like, yeah, I can live without it, which is cool.
What is your favorite book and why?
Oh man.
Or it could be a top two.
Oh, wow, this is awesome. So I think something that I could read over and over again is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe.
Oh man, yeah.
And something that I'll do something that I just discovered. It is a book called "You Are a Badass at Making Money" by Sinchero. My wife put me onto it. She started doing audiobooks, and then she's like, "You got to listen to this." And it's a complete well, first like a fantastic reminder, but then also kind of like a complete shift in some areas of mindset and how, we relate to money, how we use money, why we should have it, and the things that kind of keep us from getting it. Right. So that's I think a nice mysterious kind of intro so that someone can go ahead and read it. But You Are a Badass at Making Money by Sinchero is fantastic.
Say less. I'm going to have to get that on Amazon today.
Yeah, that's where
what is your biggest fear?
Snakes.
Snakes?
Yeah, man. Listen, I'm just not with it. I'm just not like. There's absolutely nothing else. Like if you're like, hey, man,
Let's
we're
go
gonna go ahead
skydiving.
and jump out of a plane. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, I'll see if my wife will let me, but I don't personally have an issue with it. But man, like I'm just not a snake guy. And it's like not even like the paralyzing fear. Like there's some people who are like, go see one and then kind of like freeze up. But it's just like it just creeps me out. And I'm just not with it. So if I'm ever, taking a kid to the zoo or whatever, I'm just kind of like, we're just gonna skip this section. But yeah, just generally uncomfortable. So I think I'll give that as my fear.
And then the last question of the culture change round is, if you were the president of the United States, what is the first thing you would do?
What was the first thing I would what?
What's the first thing you would do?
Oh, it's so heavy, man. In the society that we live now, man, that's a tough question. Why I'll explain why I think it's a tough question, then I'll try to figure out what the first thing would be. Because you can't kind of legalize kind of like ethics and morality, right?
Yeah.
Like it ends up being like how people feel about it. If they don't feel what they're doing is wrong, then they just kind of continue to do it. There's certain stop gaps as far as like, types of corruption and stuff that happen, but you have to find it first and you have to be able to prove it first. So there's no kind of like, hey, like don't do this and just because it's like a horrible thing to do. So that's my one issue. What would I do first? I think the first thing I would try to do is, man, this is a lot.
Yeah, it's always a loaded question.
Cause all right, yeah, cause I'm looking at like we said it. I'm like, I'm thinking STEM for Black kids. I'm thinking taking care of our military service people that kind of come back and don't have anything. It's like I'm thinking healthcare and why there's these huge disparities of like diabetes and heart disease and things like that in these more ethnic and urban neighborhoods versus others. So, oh man, all right, yeah, I'm gonna say funding STEM programs for inner city youth.
Okay.
I think it's a mindset thing. It's an opportunity thing. I've been privileged to have a lot of friends that are, in that kind of coding space that are Black and brown, and they're giving back. And I think it's one of those things where if you don't see people that look like you in these positions, then you don't think it's available to you. So I think that will be one thing that can kind of shift, some kids' mindsets so that they're not, only focused on what's in mainstream media.
It could say no more. So I got one last question. This is out. The culture change round is done. I asked it to everybody on the show, but before I do there, I will be remiss if I didn't ask, how's fatherhood been? How's fatherhood been so far?
Man, it's amazing. So we initially were like that couple that like, we just want to chill and hang out with each other. We don't want kids at all. And then we had our our moms and our friends and our pastor like praying against us to make sure that we have a kid, and it worked.
How long
you
after
know,
y'all were married?
uh, we're going to our fourth year married now, and he's one, so right around
Okay, so I
year
had a good
two.
3 years.
Yeah, yeah, we had some fun times, and we're continuing to kind of grow and um in this kind of new level of responsibility. So I think it's all positive. But yeah, man, it's amazing. I think the reminder was of how quickly you can grow, because this is a kid that came home and literally like didn't move, and then now like you just can't stop him from running around. So it's just like, wow, like in this year's time, he's gone through all these like fantastic transitions and first words and first steps and first time feeding himself with a spoon and all these other things like that. And you're just like watching in awe. And then you just realize too, it's like, yeah, like just because I'm an adult doesn't mean I have to stop growing either.
Mm.
The biggest lesson from it, where there's like, if you kind of keep that vision in front of you, you're also like, hey, I can apply this to my life too. It's not just like awesome to see him develop, it's awesome to know that I still have my own developing to do, in my level. So it's fantastic though. I don't know, I would recommend it only to people who have stable relationship and a great family. So like, yeah, don't think, having a kid is going to fix anything or whatever like that. So yeah, I think that's it. If you have a fantastic partner and, yeah, I mean, you get to bring a new life into the world. I was in the room, man. I saw everything. So, it
Oh man.
was amazing. It was amazing. I think, and I just saw, this completely new level of strength for my wife and all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, if you're in kind of like a great kind of positive relationship, then it's like, oh, it's even better. Generally, kids are a blessing, but it's even better across the whole family if the relationship is positive and you got a great support network.
Love that, man. Love that. That sounds very refreshing to hear, man. So as we close the show, everybody that comes on this show, I consider a culture change agent in their field, in their space, man. And this question jumps right into it. If you could change one thing about society, and it's another deep one, so it's going to take some time just kind of meditate on it. But if you could change one thing about society, most specifically our African American culture, what would it be and why?
Ooh, especially about this culture. Well, I think I would encourage ownership of any kind, whether it's owning communities, owning retail spaces, owning real estate. Like we don't have enough of a foothold currently to be able to really kind of like exercise our buying power on another level too, right? I think that's the awesome thing. It's like, yeah, we spend the money, but we, for the majority, kind of spend it outside of our community. And I'm loving, seeing platforms like yours and others that are kind of encouraging this exchange among people of color. So I think that'll be my biggest thing, is just like continue to kind of, support each other, buy from each other, go see each other, on stages and all that stuff. And make sure that the money's kind of circulating in our community for sure, in addition to others, of course.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's crazy that I don't know if I was in men's Bible class. I don't know where I was at, within the last week that ownership was just on my, we had a whole discussion about just taking ownership and how ownership is kind of lacking specifically in, in all communities, but what we see in our young men, and even I consider myself still a young man, but our teens and anything else, just that not only the physical ownership of things, but also the mental taking ownership of things we have to do better, things we have to grow in, or our responsibilities, or et cetera. So it's crazy how it came back, full circle, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a powerful thing. And I think, our job as we're, And yeah, like you said, we're still a young man, but there's, still so many, even younger guys to kind of give back to and speak into, and kind of show kind of like, different aspects of life. I think we're all just kind of, reacting to our exposure. So if we can go ahead and change or add to what they're being exposed to, at their stage, then they're more apt to make some different decisions.
Say less, man. Say less, man. So, from the bottom of my heart, man, and Minority Trailblazing heart, I still want to thank you for all your time, man. This afternoon. I know these are prime time hours, man. So we don't want to hold you long. Want to let you get back to it so you can finish out the rest of the day, man. So before we let you go, could you share with our audience where we can find more information about you, get in contact, and all the stuff you do from a business perspective, and how we can reach out?
Oh, absolutely. Primarily, you can go to stellaremails.com, STELLAR emails.com. That's our main company site where you can learn a little bit more about what we do, our strategy, how we intake clients. So if you are in e-commerce, feel free to, say hi, set up a consultation call, and then see if we're a good fit. Otherwise, you can tweet me, if you have any questions about business, T Augustin _, TAUGUSTIN _, and you can feel free to, kind of catch me there. And then, also my main site, thierryaugustin.com, just to learn about some of the different things, that I do.
So, Minority Trailblazing Nation, you already know we need you to do two things. One, we need you to thank our guests for coming on the show, dropping those jewels, and just giving us well over an hour of his time. And also, as we close out, you already know I need you to leave a review, and continue to change the freaking culture. Good night.